Morning, hi there. Welcome to Kings at Home Daily. My name is Steve. I'm one of the leaders based at City West. If you're part of the Kings family, Kings Church family from maybe City West or Marcross or City Centre, morning. Great to have you with us again. If you're looking in from outside, then you're especially welcome. We're a church based in Norwich. Meet across several locations in the city, but at the moment trying to put content out daily, just online, as we're not able to meet together. And in these sessions at the moment we're going through the book of Acts, so if you have a Bible then we're in chapter 15 this morning, and going to read a bit there starting in verse 36. Sometime later, Paul said to Barnabas, "Let us go back and visit the believers in all the towns where we preach the word of the Lord and see how they are doing." So they're talking about returning and seeing how these new believers that they left some time ago are doing, just to catch up with them, find out how they're doing, to encourage them, disciple them, equip them. Verse 37, Barnabas wanted to take John, also called Mark, with them, but Paul did not think it wise to take him, because he deserted them back in Pamphylia and had not continued with them in the work. They had such a sharp disagreement that they parted company. Barnabas took Mark and sailed for Cyprus, but Paul chose Silas and left, commended by the believers to the grace of God. He went through Syria and Cilicia, strengthening the churches. Paul came to Derbe and Lystra, where a disciple named Timothy lived, whose mother was Jewish and a believer, but whose father was a Greek. The believers at Lystra and Iconium spoke well of him. Paul wanted to take him along the journey, so he circumcised him because of the Jews who lived in that area, for they all knew that his father was a Greek. As they travelled from town to town, they delivered the decisions reached by the apostles and elders in Jerusalem for the people to obey. So the churches were strengthened in the faith and grew daily in numbers. So what's going on here? So we have Paul and Barnabas, who have been a real dynamic duo together, a real team throughout this wonderful book of the early church. And but in the Barnabas wants to bring John Mark with them on this next journey, and yet he bailed on them back, and Paul's not up for it. He's kind of saying, I can't rely on him. I can't trust that guy anymore. He's not coming. And Barnabas, it's his cousin, and he's kind of saying, but he's changed. He's learnt his lesson. Give him a second chance. And anyway, it goes on to be such a sharp disagreement, it says here, and clearly quite strong views were aired and exchanged, and ended up them going their separate ways. These two guys who had done so much together, God had used so much, then going their different ways. Paul goes on to Derbe and Lystra, and then Barnabas going back to Cyprus. And I don't know about you, but I'm always encouraged when the Bible doesn't airbrush things. People in the Bible, they're not airbrushed, are they? They're not. They don't sort of erase out or airbrush out the difficult moments. So often now in kind of social media and so on, people just want to kind of airbrush out the bad things and just present themselves a certain way. But the Bible just doesn't do that when it comes to people. It's very real, and sometimes, particularly Paul, can seem so kind of sort of superhero type of figure, and yet here a sharp disagreement. I'm not sure anybody's really right here, that you could easily, I think, argue it both ways as to one person being right or the other wrong. I take encouragement that here they are, these men God have used and have done amazing things, are still just men, just humans, able to sharply disagree, and yet God uses it. Yet he, because we read on in the end of where is it in verse 5 in chapter 16 that after they've gone their separate ways, God uses it. He meets Timothy, and this is we know more about Timothy later in the Bible and so on, but he begins his encounter with Timothy, and in verse 5, churches were strengthened, faith and grew and daily in number. So God uses it. He uses ordinary people with all their frailties and flaws to accomplish his purposes. And I find that wonderfully encouraging, because that means that that little old me, with my failures and flaws, God can still use me. And the same is true for all of us. If you know and follow him, that he can use you, no matter your situation, your flaws, your circumstances, that he can use you. And I find that very encouraging, knowing that in spite of that, he works through. And actually, this is a great example of how he uses something, a kind of a disagreement, a mistake. It's not ideal, is it? Yet he uses it to bring about an increase in fruitfulness, doesn't he? Because now, instead of it being just Paul and Barnabas, then there's Barnabas and John Mark, and then there's Paul and Silas over here. So there's kind of two teams around, and we don't hear any more about Barnabas, but nonetheless, there's two teams going out sharing the gospel that God's using. And so I feel so encouraged that despite human mistakes and frailties, God uses us, and he can use you into today, whatever's situation you find yourself in, whoever you find yourself amongst, maybe at work or at home or in your neighborhood, your community. God can use you. You don't have to be some sort of superhero or have it all together, as if any of us do have it all together, but he can use you. He can use you to share the gospel, to reach people who you wouldn't have thought. He can use you. I hope that encourages you this morning. Bless you, church.